Hi, my name is Carolyn Jaynes. I'm the author of Sprinkles from Heaven, Twinkles from Heaven. Can you see the little fairy on there? Ripples of Faith, and Chicken Soup for the Soul. Yesterday, to go to your uncle's funeral, he came here looking for you. Let's see, is my Zoom still up? Are you guys still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Making sure. Got kind of quiet. Okay. So we don't want to tell anybody that our uncle died. Okay. So here we go. The objectives of this class: to comfort you, your loved ones still exist, to inform you that you are not alone, to uplift and inspire you with spirit signs, to prove that you and others are not crazy, to help you raise your own energy vibration, and to be more receptive to subtle signs around you. You are immortal. You're going to live forever. And they are too. They're just on a different dimension. So these are signs from loved ones in spirit, are dearly never departed. The fact that we cannot see our loved ones or communicate with them after the transformation, which we call death, is no proof that they cease to exist. Okay. Is that me echoing, or does somebody need to mute?
Oh, you know what? Let me call on my cell phone too, because it's my computer. It's the sound's bad.
Thank you. So here we have a dragonfly, which can be a sign of someone. So I'm going to read you a quick little story from my book, Sprinkles from Heaven. It's called Bob's Hope. I somehow knew that I needed to see Bob that day to say goodbye. The terminal diagnosis of cancer had been cast 2 years earlier, but the reality of his death sentence sank in starkly when I saw Bob the last week of his life. Our relationship had ended before the birth of our son, Jeremy, age 19. I was grateful that Jeremy had time to live with his dad, because Bob, only 42 years old, would soon be gone. Bob, Jeremy, and his 2 stepbrothers had won a Make-A-Wish grant to a vacation at Disneyland, but he wouldn't be alive long enough to make the trip. I entered the dimly lit living room turned hospice and was surprised to see Bob, attached to an oxygen tank, sitting up in his chair, complaining that his feet hurt. I had been told that his swollen feet were a sign that his organs were shutting down. He tried to pop the tab on his Pepsi can. I reached forward to help him, but he insisted he could do it himself. He couldn't. When I offered again, he scolded me. "If you keep asking me that, you will have to leave," he snapped, not wanting to admit that this simple task was getting the best of him. I overlooked his grouchy mood, thinking I might be grumpy too if I were about to die. Being that weak and helpless must feel awful to a man once so strong and independent, who was now about to leave everyone and everything behind to the living. I sat quietly and smiled at him, unsure what to say next. I felt awkward since we hadn't really talked very much in years. "I assume you are here because you care," he said. Yes, I nodded. "How are you feeling?" "I'm so tired," he groaned. His cancer that started in his esophagus had spread to his back and stomach. He had control of his intravenous morphine pump to medicate his pain, and I saw him thumb the button for a dose. I wanted to talk to him about God and discuss the practical matter of our son and his 2 teenage stepsons he had sole custody of. I managed a sentence or two about how I believed he had guardian angels to assist him to the afterlife, but he didn't seem to accept the nearness of his impending death, or if he did, he wasn't going to discuss it with me. I felt sad to see him so sick and hurting. He had been stocky, and now that he had stopped eating, he looked like a tiny bag of bones. I reached out to hug him farewell. Bob blurted out in fear, "Don't squeeze me." "I'm not going to squeeze you, I promise." I kissed his sunken cheek softly and patted the other one lightly. Then I whispered, "Goodbye, Bob." He replied confidently, "See you later." I turned to leave the house, knowing it was the last time I would see him alive. As I drove home, my hand swiped the tears from my cheeks like a wet windshield wiper. Seeing him so close to death really upset me. I couldn't stand to see him like that. Bob died a couple of days later at home, the way he wanted to die. The next day, I was on the phone with my friend Susan in Arizona when my computer went crazy. I felt Bob's presence in the room. I was receiving instant messages on my monitor as if I were online. I wasn't. My name kept flashing urgently in a text box across the screen to get my attention. This can't be, I told myself, yet it was happening. I feel like Bob is trying to contact me through the computer, I told Susan, who was spiritually aware and believed me. The computer was making black vertical lines, something I didn't even know how to do and had never seen before or since. If that wasn't enough, the words on the screen turned red without my clicking that color icon. I hadn't touched anything. I was astonished. Then I felt relieved that Bob was all right, even honored that he chose to come to me in spirit. He must have known that I would welcome him. The hairs on my arms raised up as a shivery wave went through my body. Just as suddenly as he came, he quickly left, apparently satisfied he had made the connection. A few days later, I had a vivid dream. Bob stood tall and strong, healthy and vibrant once more. He held out his arms wide as if to hug me and said with a big grin, "You can squeeze me now," just like the picture. I was delighted to see that he was happy, and I had no reason to be worried any longer. I awoke with the feeling that this was not a typical dream. It felt real. It appeared that Bob wanted to give me this gift, the reassurance that he was out of pain. I didn't have to be sad about his death anymore. Ah, that's good. Because he looked joyful and free. I rolled over in my warm bed, smiling with hope that he will, like he said, see me later, because that's where I'm headed to one day, as we all are. So as you can see, his arms are out wide. He came to me in a dream and he said, "You can squeeze me now." So Bob's hope, these are some of the signs that we saw of his life. Okay, so what are the signs that Bob's spirit is alive and well? Well, the first thing was the computer went crazy, right? And feeling that sense of someone being in the room with you. You can feel that person's energy, their essence of who they are with you, even though you can't maybe see them or hear them, your body might feel it. Okay. That was the first thing with me, was feeling it because I'm an empath. And then secondly, the computer going nuts. Okay. And then coming to us in a dream, it's real because it's sequential and it's personal and it leaves an emotional impact on you. That's different than just a normal dream. It's a real visitation from that spirit. So our dream state is a direct link to the spiritual realm. That's when we're not so resistant. We're more open, we're more receptive, and we're open so that they can come to us easily, because they've got to do a little work to come to us too, and we want to make it easy for them, right? So electrical and mechanical changes can take place when our own vibrations change or when a spirit visits us, because we are electromagnetic energy as people. And so when you see your lights flicker or your stove just burned out or you're having all these strange things happen to your electronics after a loved one has died, it's usually them trying to get you a message, okay? So be aware of those little differences in your life when that happens. These are some of the signs that people see. And I've been teaching this class for about 7 years now, so I've heard a lot of great stories. My friend Christy said she always gets dimes from her uncle. And I said, well, I always find pennies. And I said, sounds like you got a raise. And she's like, yeah. Hummingbirds are a really positive sign. It's probably different for everybody, but for me, it signifies joy and hope, and get back to what you love to do, and do that and be joyful. Feathers are often a sign from your angels. Some people have told me that they've actually found a large white feather on their pillow And there's no doors or windows open, so where did this bird come from that just set that on the pillow? Or maybe you'll find it on your front step, or when you get out of your car, it's right there on the ground. So keep an eye on your path. If you're finding feathers, it's another sign of hope and faith, and that everything's going to be all right. So don't worry about it. Butterflies are another wonderful sign when they come up and flutter around you. It could be your loved one making that butterfly come to you. Okay. I often see really large yellow butterflies after my grandfather Orville passed away. And I kind of felt like that was his message to me. There can be repeated numbers or symbols like 333. My aunt noticed that the clock was 3:33 a.m. when her father passed away. And she kept seeing those numbers later, and it kind of reminded her of him too. You might see orbs of light. I was taking care of a lady in Del Mar, and oh my gosh, she had so many spirits in her bedroom. I was supposed to watch her on this video monitor, and there's all these lights going around and orbs, and I'm like, oh my gosh. That didn't bother me as much as the place was all windows. I'm like, and there were no shades. And I'm like, it felt a little creepy because I'm more afraid of the human beings out on the street than I am those orbs running around in our bedroom. Okay. You might see pictures with white spirals coming down behind people or next to them. Those are loved ones that have come to that celebration, whether it's a wedding, a birthday party, a graduation, something like that. They're going to be there, and sometimes a camera will catch them. White outlines also. I'm going to show you a picture in a little bit of an amazing white outline of a spirit. So any questions about this so far?
Nope.
Okay. How spirits contact us. So dreams and visions. Did you dream of a deceased person who was very much alive and you thought the dream was real? A lot of us do. Was it sequential in vivid color? Did it leave you feeling comforted? Did you see a vision of your loved one? Did they have a message for you? A lot of the students I've worked with said they saw their loved one standing at the end of their bed, and they saw them very clearly down there, and they were just letting them know, I made it, I'm okay, which can really help a grieving person when you're grieving them because they're not here. They're not here with us in the physical, but to know that they're happy and healthy and doing well on the other side, I find that very comforting. And I think that's what they want to tell us. Sometimes they'll have a message if they have some unfinished business here, and they might want you or someone else to help with that. So also they can give you messages through other people. I remember one time a little poem popped up in my jewelry box just before I was going to my best friend's father's funeral. And I felt like it was saying, take me with you. So I took it. I'm like, okay, fine. I just listened, brought it to the funeral, handed it to my friend's mom, and she read it. And she's like, wow, that poem really touched my heart. Thank you. That really helped me. And I'm like, just following directions, So other people can give you messages from them, like a medium. Voice. Did you hear their voice? Or a sound symbol, something that would relate to that person, or their favorite music. So this is something really personal to you that makes you know that it's them. Okay. My cousin Cheryl and I were on the phone right after our grandmother passed, and she's like, Carolyn, I hear her saying my name in the gaps of our conversation. And I'm like, wow, what does it sound like? She was really far away and staticky, but she was getting the message through that she's there. A scent. Did you smell their personal scent or something related to them, like their cologne, a cigar, their occupation? There's, all of our workplaces have a distinct fragrance, right? Some better than others. And then their favorite food. Maybe grandma was famous for her apple pies, and every time you feel the energy change in the room, you can smell an apple pie. Is that you? Or their favorite music, a special song. I know recently I've been giving song messages because I was a singer for 23 years. So that's how spirit chose to come through. And so I was saying, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, that song to someone at church. And I thought, that's kind of a silly song. I hope it meant something to her. And then later someone came up to me and said, oh yeah, it meant something to her. Her and her grandma used to sing that song together all the time. And her grandma had just passed. So that was reassuring. So if you hear your favorite song, or maybe their favorite TV program suddenly comes on the TV and maybe it was off, then you really get a good sign, because you know that's them. Touch, stroking your hair, a light kiss on your cheek, a touch of your hand or a hand on your shoulder, something reassuring that you know they're there. After my grandmother Laverne passed away, I felt her kiss me on the forehead and then the cheek, and then she left. So that was really cool. Feeling. Did you feel better? Did it solve a problem? Or were you helped in an emotional or material way because of the spirit visit? They love you and they want to come to you to give you a gift, a healing, something that's really positive. So that's why I want you to become more aware of these signs so that you can get the benefit of that. Watch for them where they are now. We know they're not here. So where are they? I asked my dad, I said, where are you now? And he showed me exactly where he was. He was in his heaven, in a paradise garden, sitting in the middle of a clearing in a lounge chair, kicked back, all relaxed and happy and young. And he said, my work is all done. I can enjoy it now. And I'm telling you, that was so comforting to me and reassuring to know that he was right there, because I went to look for him where he is now. He's in another dimension. And the way I can access that is through meditation. We all hear it from every great religion out there: meditate, 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 right? Well, that is the key. Love doesn't die, and neither do our souls. Loved ones are always with us, guiding, protecting, and loving us eternally. Since that time, I've seen my father many, many times, and it's just wonderful. I feel like I'm closer to him now than I was in life. So even just swimming today in the pool, I was like, Dad, I love this so much. This is so great. Thank you so much for your gift that I could come to this resort and swim today. And another psychic medium had told me that my dad's going to come to me through leaves dropping. And I'm like, okay. So right after I said this gratitude prayer, all of a sudden this big yellow leaf just fell down. And I'm like, oh, geez, that's insane. That's so crazy. So yeah, he's always around. Our souls do not speak human language. They communicate to us through symbols, metaphors, visions, poetry, deep feelings, and everyday magic. Watch for the magic. How spirits contact us. Have your lights flickered, gone on or off, or burned out, or turned on and then all three? You never know. Did you feel an energy presence in the room or near you? It's like something shifts and you're in kind of a different phase. Like, I don't know how to describe it really, unless you've experienced it, but it just feels like the energy shifts. Did an appliance or electronic device misbehave? Okay, that happens a lot. I know when my stepdad died, my cell phone went crazy. It was scrolling by itself. It was showing me symbols I didn't even know I had. So it was pretty amazing. Were things you lost now found where you could see them? You know, they see what we're up to. And if we're upset or distraught about losing something, they might go find it for us and set it right where we can find it, or they'll nudge us to go look for it. I remember thinking, where did I put that $100? I know I hid it. I probably hid it from myself. And all of a sudden I got this urge to go dust the bookshelf, and I started dusting, and then I'm like, oh, there's my book I wanted to read, and then I opened it up and my $100 fell out. So I felt like I was being nudged from my loved ones in spirit to find that. Where things moved or making an unusual sound. Things will move, like their pictures you might have out, and they'll flip them over, and there'll be something on the back that says, I love you forever, or something like that to give you a message. Or you might find their love letters, things like that. Unusual sounds I've noticed with ghosts. They weren't my loved ones in spirit, but they were just kind of stuck on earth. They were dropping things around me. So I would just hear these things dropping all around me. And that's when I knew the ghost needed to find the light and go. And so I basically told him, look up, you see that light up there? That's where you need to go. And I talked him into it. Later on, a medium told me, those people that you told to go to the other side, they made it to heaven and they're sending you hearts and flowers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it made me cry in church. I was just like, oh my God, it really worked. So this stuff is real. Where your loved ones' things suddenly turning up. Yeah, it could be anything, really. Anything that gives you that feeling that it's them. It is them. Did you see a light moving, a misty cloud, or a shadow? I've seen some ghosts that look like a kind of a gray, cloudy shadow go from room to room. Okay. I've also seen white orbs, lights, all kinds of different things. So even colors, different colors, like blobs. Who is standing behind the groom? This is my brother, Tim. My mother's putting on his boutonniere for his wedding. I do not know who that white person is, but I've been told that a lot of times our maternal ancestors would be on our left. So that would be on his left. It could be my grandfather, Orville, but who can tell when you're made of light, right? Signs people hear: overheard conversations that relate to you. Okay. Now, these are things that can give you a lot of guidance in your life. It may not be them just coming to you saying, hey, I'm here. I made it to heaven. I love you. It might be something to help you with your life. So I remember hearing a couple gals jogging past me when I was walking by a lake. And I heard one say to the other, you're going out of town this weekend. And I thought, wow, it sounds like she's talking to me. Weird. And so that day when I got home, there was a voicemail from my mom going, hey, Carolyn, you want to drive us over to Wisconsin this weekend? I'm like, yeah, I think I'm supposed to. So listening, just anything that seems a little out of the ordinary, it's not a coincidence. It's definitely set up. It's synchronicity. It's serendipity. It's something there to give you a healing or a blessing or a lesson or something. It's for you, okay? The phone could be ringing with no one there right after someone passes. They're trying to say, hey, hello, I'm here. Radio commentary that answers your questions or thoughts. I don't know what to call this. I used to call it radio magic, but that was so vague that now I wrote radio commentary that answers your questions or thoughts. So I'm driving to grad school and I had this really, really strict teacher that if you're late, the door is locked. And I was worried I was running a little bit late in traffic. And I thought, oh my gosh, am I going to get there on time? I don't want to get locked out of class. And the radio said, you'll be right on time. And I made it like 1 minute before the door shut. Another time I was wondering about my daughter, Natalie, moving to Hawaii, and I thought, gosh, is she going to be okay? And the radio said, she'll be just fine. Okay. It's like you just tune it in at the right time. It might be a song. It might be a commentary. It might be something, but it's answering your questions or thoughts because this is a very interactive universe. Okay. What we put out there is what we're going to get back. Doorbells. Ding dong. I'm here. You hear it in your third ear, when you're sleeping or you're taking a nap or you're meditating and you're hearing this ding dong. You might hear your name called. Television shows that you love or they love or has something to do with your situation with that person. Maybe they're playing out some drama or comedy that you experienced with that person and you're going, this is weird. That's a sign too. Maybe the channels are changing to bring you this message, okay? Their favorite song or dance music, your loved one's voice calling you. Recently with the song thing, my dad came through and said, wind beneath my wings. And it made me cry a little bit because I've always ended every show I've ever done with that song. And a lot of people do cry. So it's like he knew that I had done that, even though he hadn't been to my shows, which is so cool. Yep. So they might call your name. out loud. They might whisper in your ear. You might feel a flutter. You might feel those goosebumps, maybe going up your spine. You might feel a little breeze go through your chest. That's them. Okay. So there's just a lot of things that can come in through all of your senses. So you want to be really aware of what you're seeing, hearing, smelling, even tasting, although that's more rare, I think, than the others. And then definitely emotionally feeling like an empath. Okay. Or just knowing. That's another one. These are the signs that people smell. The perfume or lotion they wore, all of a sudden you might smell that. I know when angels come around, they smell like beautiful floral scents. Okay. You might smell their cigarette, their cigar or pipe smoke. With my grandfather Orville, I always smelled his cherry tobacco pipe. It was very distinct. And then he was also knocking on my headboard. And I said, Grandpa, do you want me to sing Wind Beneath My Wings at your funeral? Got faster. And I'm like, okay, I will. So we were able to communicate right after he passed. Now the smoky smell is going to come around when no one nearby is smoking. So look around, sometimes it's hard to tell what's in the physical and what's in the spiritual because it's really close together, but you can tell their personal scent or body odor. Okay. Maybe they wore eternity cologne or cherry lotion, or maybe they had a distinct odor because they have different sheets that they put in the dryer, like Bounce or something. You're like, smells just like them. Or it could be their professional scent, the grease of a mechanic, the office of a dentist, right? A bakery. You get the idea. Anything that has to do with them personally. Any cooking smells or a favorite flower fragrance. Maybe your deceased aunt really liked lilacs and they have a very distinct fragrance. And you're like, wow, I'm smelling lilacs. I think she's here. Okay. Or roses or whatever they liked. I'm going to tell you a little story about Orvie. That's my grandfather, and he passed away quite a while ago now. There's that cherry tobacco pipe I was telling you about. I smelled that right away. Okay. Below that is a donkey, and that signifies a donkey cart. It's actually a big planter box that looks like a donkey. And my Aunt Diane had said, gosh, I wish you could come here and see my garden. Okay. So, but he passed away before he could see it. And then Orvie also had a picture of his wife riding the donkey cart in their yard. And he loved that picture. He had it on his coffee table, right? So when he passed away, he moved my Aunt Diane's donkey cart from the front of the house to her driveway. That takes a lot of power. I'm telling you, it was heavy. My poor Aunt Diane was freaking out because she had hid her house key in there. And so she ran out to see, if it was still okay and if it was still there, and it was. So that was amazing. So she's like, okay, I guess he's telling me that he did see my garden. And he did. So he's very powerful to be able to move that stuff. The beetle on the other side there, that signifies what my mother saw. She was reading about Carl Jung and his Egyptian scarab that he had seen with his patient who had depression and wasn't getting well. And so they talked about this Egyptian scarab, and suddenly one came to the window, and the lady was so blown away by that she actually got better. She wasn't as depressed after that. She had hope that, more is going on than meets the eye, which there definitely is a lot more going on underneath the surface than most of us realize. So my mom saw a beetle on her dresser. And if you know my mom, which you don't, she's immaculate. Like her house is super clean constantly. There would not be a bug in there. So there's this giant black beetle on there, signifying exactly what she had been reading about the day before. So it's called a death watch beetle. So they definitely felt like they got their sign from him. And then me, I had told you that he was knocking on my headboard. So there's the headboard down there with the bed. So look at all the different ways that he came to each of us. He also came to my Aunt Diane, who was with the donkey cart, by turning on old time dance music like swing that he used to do with his wife. It wasn't her station. He had changed the station and blared the music, and she had to go down and turn it off. Okay. So there's another sign for Diane. So they're going to come in different ways that are personally meaningful to you. Okay. So what are your experiences? Anybody care to share?
I had a ton.
Oh, good.
So let's see. The most, I don't know, vivid, I guess, was after my son died, really stunned, and he was afraid to die. And he was afraid to leave my mom, basically, as was. And he was supposed to be taken from the hospital back to skilled nurse to be with, and then he got, so he couldn't go. And went to the hospital, and I told him that he was going to see her again, and that where he was going was more beautiful than anywhere that he'd ever been, and because the world. And I told him that colors, I mean, there's a lot more colors, and it's just going to be phenomenal. And and his breathing slowed down.
Yeah.
And then he passed, I was walking her on her usual walk in the wheelchair, and ironically I had him on that a few days prior, which I didn't walk him in the wheelchair or take him out there. But on this day, he was out near there, and this huge eggplant colored butterfly came flying at me, like vroom, vroom, like soaring. Yeah. And it was like, the message I got was, you were right. I'm free. This is great. This, I'm so happy. And that particular butterfly was around for like a month. And anytime I'd walk my mom in the wheelchair, or for a while I was driving his car, and it would be there by the car, stuff like that. It was just really amazing.
It really is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. For some reason, I can't see all of you right now because this slide is up, but does anybody else want to share before we move on? And thank you for sharing. I love that story. An
Carolyn,
eggplant.
as you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Carolyn, as you know, I'm very, very connected with my great grandparents, Grandma Dolores and Grandpa Joe, and I am sitting in my great grandmother's rocking chair that she gifted me when she passed away. And it had been sitting in a storage unit for the last over 2.5 years.
Wow.
And it finally came home yesterday. And yes, and this green blanket that you see is a hand knitted blanket that her mother made her. And yeah, so there's a lot of heritage going on sitting in this chair right now. And
absolutely,
when it was coming home yesterday, it was in the back of one of our of a roller skate friend's truck, and I was driving in front of them, and I swear I could see my grandmother sitting in the rocking chair with her white hair with the wind going through her hair, and she was sitting in that rocking chair in the back of that truck just enjoying the wind through her hair. It was so cool. And the funny part is that there was a white trash bag that had been over the back of this since I had started in storage years ago. And as I'm driving down the road, I'm picturing this. I'm picturing grandma's what she had this beautiful white, pure white curly hair. And I'm picturing this white curly hair blowing in the wind. And then I look back and see that there's a white trash bag blowing in the wind, covering this part of the rocking chair. And I'm like, wow.
Ah, that's
Yeah.
cute. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so
So
much for sharing. You're very visual. You're clairvoyant. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's great. So you guys did have experiences, so you know this stuff is true. Sylvia Browne, the renowned psychic, wrote, "It takes a receptive audience among those left behind." So you're both very receptive. That's awesome. Children and animals, who are the most psychic creatures on earth, will be able to see most easily, followed by those who have the ability to tune into the higher vibrations of the other side. So you're tuning into those higher vibrations. That's from Sylvia Browne. When we die, we step into the next dimension. So we blink here and we're over there. It's that quick, which is great because it saves us a lot of physical pain, I'm sure, you know, before the car accident or the fire or this, or we hit the ground or whatever's happening to us, that we're going to jump into the next dimension before we have to feel anything too painful, hopefully. So how to be more receptive, that's what we're talking about now, is how to be open, aware, and tuned in, and to get those signs that are there for us. And one of the best ways is to spend some time in silence and solitude, like in quiet contemplation or meditation. And when we're sitting in that really receptive state, we're allowing anything to just come in. We're not trying to control it. We're not saying, I want to see you. We're allowing anyone who wants to come in to come in. We don't control it, they do. Okay, so you might not get what you want, but you're going to get what you need if you allow that to come in when you're meditating. So prayer and even asking, can you please show me a sign? You know, ask anybody over there, your angels, God, whatever you want to call the universal love energy. Ask your loved one to show you a sign, you know, and then be aware of what changes in the environment. You can access people too through hypnosis a lot of times. Walking quietly or relaxing in nature, just getting out there in that nice nature energy, you can really tune in to things around you. Empty your mind to receive. Basically, that is what meditation is. We're just emptying our mind so we can be a clean and clear receptacle for that. Cultivating peace and being present now, not worrying about the future and not, you know, worrying about the past, just sitting here right now and enjoying this beautiful moment, right? And then also tapping into your heart center to feel. You're getting into your heart rather than your head. You know, it's like quieting the mind, feeling, and allowing. You want to relax often and breathe deeply. These are really receptive states to get into. Another way to be more receptive, aware, and open is to trust your intuition. If you take nothing else from this class, please remember that you can trust your intuition, your inner nudges, and your feelings. That's why they're there. They're there to detect these kinds of things. Also, physically, you can let go of smoking, alcohol, caffeine, and sugar. Some of these are neurotoxins and they get in the way. I know when I eat certain foods, I can't connect. I don't know what it is, but a lot of times popcorn even, and I love popcorn, but I notice when I eat certain things, I cannot get as close as I want to get because it's blocking me. And I see auras and people who smoke or do drugs, a lot of times their aura is really cloudy and gray and close to the body, and it creates a lot of a negative atmosphere around the person, and it's hard for them to get signs, you know, or any guidance because they're blocked. Okay. Eating a highly nutritious moderate diet. Over here we see a lot of whole foods. They're also raw. You know, eating God's food as much as possible instead of man's processed food is really going to help open you up too. Affirming, I am receptive to the spiritual signs. I'm open. I want to be a satellite. Bring it on in. You know, I'm available. Let it happen. Asking a question before sleeping or meditating. Ask a question and then see if it gets answered in your dreams or through your meditation or after you wake up. A lot of times in the morning, I get a lot of visions right when I'm waking up because I'm really receptive at that time. Continue your daily spiritual practices to be a clearer channel for spirit, then pay attention. So whatever makes you feel more clear, you know what that is. For you, it might be yoga or taking a walk or running or listening to beautiful spiritual music, anything that makes you feel like you're closer to the creator, the source, that's going to help you. And then just making sure you get enough quiet time and joyful contemplation, not being too busy, because a lot of us have a lot on our plates, and it's important to not put so much on your plate. Signs from Jim, ripples of faith. Okay, I'm not going to read the story. I'm just going to tell you about it. Jim was a gem. He was a really sweet guy. He was my stepdad for, gosh, how long? 38 years, I guess. A long time. And he passed away. And I know that my mom was in the hospital with him when he passed in Minnesota. And their pact that they had as a couple, being 38 years married, was whichever one of us goes first, the other one will give them a sign of a rainbow. So he passed away in the hospital room, and of course my mom was crying, so she turned her head away and looked out the window, and there was a vertical rainbow right there. Amazing, right? Vertical rainbow. So she's like, oh, he made it. And it was fast, like right after he came out of there, he was up there. I was here in San Diego and I was laying in my bed. I don't know what I was doing, but all of a sudden I had this little bag of apples on a table by the door, and it was ruffling like, I'm like, what on earth? My windows are shut, the door's shut, there's no fan on, there's no way this could be happening. And then I felt in my body that someone was standing there, even though I couldn't see him at the time. I didn't see him, but I felt him, and then I heard the crinkling, and I'm like, is that you, Jim? Crinkle, crinkle, crinkle. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's there, right? So then another time, I think I was meditating, so I was really open. I saw him as a young man in like the 1950s when men had that little flipped up hairstyle back then. It was really cute. So it's flipped up and he's young and he's looking up, and there's a big ball of light there. And he basically looked at me and telepathically said, tell everyone I'm going to God now. And I'm like, okay. And then gone. So I got to see him there too. And since then, he comes to me at strange times, like when I'm trying to make a decision about a man or something, I'll get a vision of him and he'll be like this. I'm like, okay, we won't go there. So he's giving me guidance from the other side even now. So it was about, let's see, a year he had been gone, and my mom was kind of dreading that first wedding anniversary without him. So she decided to stay home and not go anywhere. And she said, there has never, ever been an ice cream truck in their neighborhood. And Jim loves ice cream. He's a Libra. He loves his sweets, okay? And so here comes the ice cream truck rolling down her street on their anniversary, playing this song, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. She's laughing because that was the last song that we played at his funeral. Okay, so that's how personal it was to her. So she went out there and got an ice cream in his honor. And she was actually giggling instead of crying while she's eating her ice cream from Jim. So it was really sweet. I just love that story. And he still comes around me. He's looking out for me. He's very protective, like a father would be. So I got both my dad and my stepdad over there, and they're both around me a lot. So I feel really doubly blessed right now to have two dads. Death is nothing at all. It does not count. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you, and the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched, unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we still are. that we are still. Call me by the old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without an effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute and unbroken continuity. What is this death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. So this is kind of like what a spirit might look like. In one of my books, I wrote The Ghost in the Guest Room. I was on a tour looking at a new apartment, and the lady, the leasing agent, and I were walking through a building, and I saw this kind of a figure walk from out of the wall into the other wall. So like from one apartment to another apartment. And I didn't realize that that was the apartment that I was going to get later. He was in there dropping things again around my bed or whatever. I had to send him to the light too. So your loved one might look like that. It might be white, it might be gray, it might be darker. I don't know. I mean, they just come to you the way they can come, but that's kind of what they look like. Ella's story. Ella is my cousin's daughter, and she's very receptive. So she literally heard my grandma at their house right after she passed, talking to her in her bedroom. And she's like, Mom, I hear Vernie's voice in my room. She was talking to her. And then she also saw Vernie go over and kiss my cousin Cheryl on the cheek. Cheryl didn't feel it. She's a very busy woman. She's a teacher. You know, she doesn't take time to meditate, but she was listening to Ella, who was very psychic, and saying, what's she doing now? What's she doing now? So Vernie was walking around and looking at things, and she looked really young. They watched her hair change, her body change into a woman who was around 30, 35. And she was checking on everybody. And then she left. So she was there. And then Cheryl says she feels her a lot when she's in the car driving right next to her. So just paying attention to how they come to you. It's always a different way because we're all different, and some of our senses are stronger than others. Like for me, I'm more clairaudient, so I'm going to hear things more or feel them. And I know there's a lot of mediums that see things really well, and I'm just learning how to do that now. But they're always going to come in some kind of different way. So pay attention. The beautiful irony is that our loss is another's reunion. Their loved ones that have already gone before them are there to greet them. So, and they'll be there to greet us when it's our time to go, which is wonderful. Think about walking into a surprise party and they're like, oh, we missed you. Here, that's what it's going to be like. Okay. So we don't have to worry about dying alone. We're not going to die alone. We're going to die with our pets running up to us, your dogs, your cats, your favorite relatives that have gone, your best friends that are gone. They're all going to be there to greet you, and they're going to be very happy to see you. And I'm sure you'll be happy to see them too. So we're going to switch a little bit over to the top 5 regrets of the dying, just to get a little bit of perspective. They said, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. So here's that age-old saying, be true to yourself, right? Do what you feel led to do, what you're passionate about, what your calling is, and don't worry about what other people say. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. People work way too hard, I think. You know, it's nice to have some downtime so that you can connect with your spirituality, because you're a divine being and you want to connect with that. You know, that's your power. That's the seat of your power. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Now, there again, I started telling my family I love you every time I would hang up the phone, because you never know when it's going to be the last time. We never know. Well, sometimes we do, I guess, but very often we don't. So just telling that person you love them, you appreciate them, these are the regrets of the dying that didn't do that. So I don't want to have any regrets. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. Just think of all the people you've known over your life who are your friends. These relationships are eternal. They're lifelong and they go on beyond this because love lasts. Love's like the only thing that's real. So staying in touch with those people, just a quick phone call on their birthday or Christmas or whatever's important to you, to stay in touch really makes a difference. I wish that I had let myself be happier. It's kind of a choice, like today I was in the pool going, I'm really happy right now. I love this. So those are their regrets, the top 5. What we can learn about life from the dying. So let's not have any regrets, right? Be true to yourself. Don't work so hard. Express your feelings. Stay in touch with your friends and find your happiness, whatever that is. What loved ones in spirit want us to know. I am fine. Okay. I'm well. I'm still alive in spirit. That's usually the biggest one right away. My pain ended the second I passed over, because we don't like to see people suffer. I'm closer to you now than I was before. That is certainly true in my case with my dad. I feel like he's there anytime I ask for him. He's right there. I'm watching over you and helping you. I see that. They really are. The other day I saw my dad. It looked like he was putting on tennis shoes, telling me to get out and exercise some more. And I'm like, that will probably really help. Yeah. So I've been doing that and I do feel better. So he's nudging me from the other side. I was greeted by loved ones when I passed, which means you will be too. I live in peace, joy, and love in the spirit world. How wonderful. I love you very much. I am with you still. My fiance Kirk is in spirit, and when we were at this mediumship class, I felt him come to me and kiss me really passionately on the mouth, and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope they don't ask me what happened. That's so embarrassing. And then another time a medium said, oh, he's here and he loves you very, very much. And I'm like, I love him too. So they're still there loving us. Isn't that wonderful? Don't be sad. We will see each other again. Yeah. So it did help me be less sad because my dad just died 3 months ago. So it's still pretty fresh. This was derived from the book Answers About the Afterlife, Bob Olson of afterlifetv.com. And he also has a list of certified mediums that he recommends if anybody wants that. That's about it.
I have to tell you, as you started talking about your stepfather, this whatever is purple over it would be your left shoulder. Yeah. Just started gleaming like crazy. And it's like, oh, well, he's with you right now.
He's here. He's here.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, he's around. They're both around me a lot. I feel really blessed right now to have that. So, any questions, stories, God stories, comments? I'm open to listening at this point now.
I do have a question, and you said that that we can access our loved ones more easily through dreams.
Yes.
And you also said that we could ask a question before we go to bed.
Yes.
So my question is, can we ask a loved one a question before we go to bed?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
You can ask your loved one a question, and what might happen is your spirit guide will talk to their spirit guide and get the message over there to them. So it might not be a direct, like, okay, I'm gonna, send it right out to that person. You're asking, and then your spirit guide or your angels go over there and get them. They bring them in for you. Yeah. So why not try it? I mean, you got nothing to lose, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had never thought of that. So thank you. Yeah, I will absolutely give that a try.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I've solved so many problems that I just couldn't figure out for myself. And I would ask a question before bed, and in the morning I would have the answer. And I'm like, that's brilliant. I never would have thought of that. That's perfect. Because it's a win-win-win, when it's spirit.
Amazing.
Yeah, I know. There's so much I want to share with people because I have so much information. I've read like 1,000 books and then all these experiences, and it's just getting better and better all the time. Really excited about the journey. How are you doing, Dana?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
It's really fascinating. Yeah, my cell phone has a couple times. So I'm like, is someone there? Yeah.
Nice toes.
Thank you.
With a heart,
I,
right? There's a sign right there, a heart.
I see hearts everywhere. And that was in a parking lot. I think it was at Seaside Church, spiritual parking lot.
Wow.
And it was just there. So yeah.
It's so funny. You mentioned Seaside. I was their soloist. I was on their payroll for 2 years singing on their stage. Yeah, I was there
awesome.
before Rebecca Jade got her job. I had her job before her for a couple of years. So I'm very, and Reverend Christian wrote the testimonial on my book, my first book. So I know them all really well.
Nice.
Yeah, they're great.
Great.
So I just want to let you know, I don't know if you're interested in mediumship at all, but the spiritualist churches in San Diego teach mediumship. They teach it. So one of the classes is Tuesdays at 2:30 and another one is on Thursday nights. I think it's at 7 at the other spiritualist church. So those things are available to you. There's lots of good books out there on this subject too, but I think the best way is just to experience it directly yourself and just, experiment with it a little bit and ask and be open to receiving and quiet down everything so that you're available to them. And they'll come to you in a way that's easiest for you because they want to connect. And they love it when they can connect. As mediums, they're just like banging on the door. They just can't wait to give that message to their loved one. They're so happy they have that opportunity, so they come even interrupt each other to get attention, me, so they will love it when you can connect with them in whatever way that works for you. So any other questions? You good? Feel like you got something, a nugget?
Oh, many nuggets. Thank you.
Good. I'm so glad. That's my job right now, is just to get the information out there. So thank you so much. You're helping me test my Zoom abilities here before we really take it out there. So thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Dana and Holly, have a blessed evening. You're welcome.
Yes,
too.
thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And nice to see you, Dana.
Nice to
Have a
see you
blessed
too.
day and a blessed week.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.